Hello, and welcome back to Chapter 7 of my BUSA USA SPAD 13 build. With winter in full swing here in southwestern Nova Scotia, I now have lots of time to work on my model, and progress is starting to show. So, let's dive in and see what I've been up to. One of the scale details I wanted to incorporate was the rivets and panel lines around the nose bowl, shown here on a full-size SPAD. The panel line was accomplished with chart tape and high build primer. With that done, it was time to lay out the rivets. My first attempt was freehand, and it didn't turn out very good. So what I did was grab some masking tape, marked off 1/4 inch lines, and basically wrapped it around and used those to get my initial marks. The panel rivets came out very well, so I decided to add the rivets at the very edge as well. So, what were the rivets made of? Would you believe ordinary canopy glue applied with a toothpick, one dot at a time? Overall, I was quite pleased with the outcome, and of course once the paint was added, they just leapt right out. These pictures show the end result, and as you can see, I think they came out very well. The last picture basically shows the panel lines with the rivets, and also the rivets were at the joint where it attaches to the fuselage. So overall, again, very pleased with the outcome. So with the cowling taken care of, it was now time to turn my attention to the landing gear. Basically a little bit of sanding and basically get ready to put some primer on. A few areas required some spot putty, and once this was applied, allowed to dry, and then sanded smooth again, it was time for another primer coat and sanding. Normally, I would be concerned with the possible weight buildup with high build primer, but landing gear is forward of the center of gravity, and I sand most of it off almost down to the bare wood anyway. So here it is, all primed, sanded. Basically now it's ready for its final coat of paint. Remember my masked off landing wheels from the last chapter? Well, here's what they came out like. Again, fairly pleased with this. It was not easy masking off with all those little spoke ridges, believe me. I had debated whether to use the flared tips on the exhaust system, as I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to apply them. So here is the rough form, made out of basswood laminated together and cut and drilled. There's still a fair amount of finishing to do, but so far so good. So now it's time to start the covering process. I had decided to use the SIG coverall fabric, as it comes very, very close to duplicating what the original SPAD would have had with its fabric or linen. Again, I used the nitrate dope. All the fuselage longerons, anywhere where it needed to be adhered to, were given 2 coats with sanding in between. I had previously used this system many years ago on a Smith mini plane. However, I used butyrate dope and not nitrate dope. The nitrate dope made the job a whole lot easier, as the adhesion was by far the best of both, of either one. Here, the bottom fuselage has been covered, attached, trimmed, and heat shrunk. Unfortunately, there was some bowing of the bottom longerons. Again, I think they were a little bit too soft for this application. The fuselage sides were then applied without any further issues. At this point, I had to decide whether to install the fin and then do the covering, or to cover the fin, install it, and then finish the back fuselage covering. I decided I could probably do a better job with the fin installed and then do the fabric over the top of the fuselage and add the two sides of the fin. Here you can see the 2 machinist squares holding the fin vertical as the 30-minute epoxy is curing. Before going any farther, I decided to close off and seal off the cockpit area, so when I start spray painting, there will not be any overspray going down into the finished fuselage or finished cockpit area. So now I'm ready to install the fabric over the turtleneck area and also the headrest fairing. Here you can see the fabric loosely installed, just waiting for the nitrate dope to anchor it down. One thing you will need is a good supply of hobby grade razor blades, as they get very dull very quickly when you're trimming this fabric. So here the fabric has been adhered to the fuselage, the longerons, all around, and is now ready for the heat shrinking process. I use the hobby heat gun for the initial shrinkage, and then follow up with the hobby iron to smooth off any rough edges that didn't shrink properly with the heat gun. And here is the finished fuselage, fully shrunk, adhered to, and basically a little bit of work left to go around and trim off areas where there's maybe little bubbles. But overall, it came out very, very well. Very happy with it. With the fuselage now completed, it's time to move on to the stabilizer. And this basically went along pretty much the same as the fuselage. Again, using nitrate dope and being very careful in cutting and trimming, it seemed to go on very well, adhered very well with minimal bubbles. Here you can see the top section being installed and ready to trim, ready for application. Here you can see what happens when a sharp razor hits a soft thumb. Ouch. All that remains now is to cover the fixed portions of the empennage. And here you can see the fin having a piece of fabric attached and ready for trimming and fitting. This finishes off the fuselage covering, at least the fixed portions, and now it's a matter of applying at least 2 coats of dope to get it ready for the paint. This ends Chapter 7, and I hope you've enjoyed this installment. And stay tuned, there is more to come.